situations. They say time heals all wounds, but they don't tell you about the scars that remain. For years, I was the one who stood outside the gate. Situations, I was the daughter who spoke up, who told the truth in my book, and who paid the price in silence. I watched my siblings' lives through a screen, just like the rest of the world did, but in 2026, something shifted. I found myself driving down that familiar road in Tontitown, my heart pounding against my ribs. Situations, was I going back for the apology I never got? Was I going back because I missed the chaos? Or was there something else pulling me toward the big house? Situations, my name is Jill Dillard. I've spent a lifetime counting the cost, but today I'm finally ready to talk about the price of coming home. For the longest time, situations, the big house felt like a fortress I was no longer allowed to enter. After Derick and I walked away, the silence was deafening. I spent years processing the trauma, situations, writing down every memory and trying to build a life that didn't revolve around a camera crew. But being the black sheep is lonely. Situations, you see the photos of the holiday parties and the baby showers. And even though you know you made the right choice for your mental health, it still stings. Situations, I had to learn how to be a Dillard before I could figure out how to be a Duggar again. I had to realize that my value wasn't tied to my obedience to my father, but to my own truth. The shift started slowly. It wasn't a big, dramatic apology. It was a text message, a simple invite to a family gathering that didn't feel like a trap. By early 2026, the building phase had officially begun. Situations, I started showing up for things like Christmas and random family days. Situations, walking through those front doors for the first time in years felt like walking into a different dimension. The house looked the same, but I was different. Situations, I wasn't the submissive daughter anymore. I was a grown woman with my own family, my own boundaries, situates, and a voice that I finally knew how to use. Everyone in the room knew about my book. Counting the cost was the elephant in the living room. Situations, I could see it in my father's eyes. The frustration, the confusion, we didn't talk about it at first. We talked about the weather, the kids, and the garden. Situations. But the tension was there. Rebuilding a relationship with my parents meant acknowledging that we may never see eye to eye on the past. Situations. I had to decide if I could love them while they still disagreed with my truth. It's a messy, complicated kind of forgiveness. It's not about forgetting situations. It's about deciding that the future is more important than the grudge. I've seen the comments online, situations, people saying I'm only back because I need the money or because I'm desperate for an inheritance. Situations, it's funny how people assume they know your bank account just because they know your name. The truth is, I didn't go back for a check. I went back for my siblings. Situations, I went back because my kids deserve to know their cousins. If money was the goal, I would have stayed quiet years ago and just played the game. Situations, coming back is harder than staying away. It requires more strength to face the people who hurt you than it does to run from them. Situations, I'm not back for the Duggar gold. I'm back for the Duggar heart, whatever is left of it. Uh, the real turning point was Jana. Situations, seeing her finally find her happiness in Nebraska, and then welcoming little Archie Gerald changed the atmosphere of the whole family. Situation when she brought him to Arkansas in February 2026. It was like a peace treaty was signed without a single word. We were all just aunts and uncles. In that moment, situations, holding my new nephew, I saw my mom smile at me in a way she hadn't in a decade. It reminded me that babies have a way of softening the hardest hearts. Situations, for a few hours, we weren't a divided family, we were just a family. Rebuilding doesn't mean everything goes back to normal. It means setting new rules. Situations. Derick and I had long talks about what we would and wouldn't tolerate. We decided that we wouldn't be part of any more filming that we didn't control. Situations. We wouldn't let our children be used for a narrative that wasn't ours. Setting those boundaries with Jim Bob was like trying to move a mountain. Situations. But I stood my ground. I realized that the only way to have a healthy relationship with my family was to ensure that I was no longer upon their game. I'm a visitor now, not a permanent resident of the big house. The big house feels different in 2026. It's quieter. So many of us have moved on. Situations. With Jana in Nebraska and Jinger in LA, the halls don't echo with as much laughter as they used to. It's a house in transition. My younger sisters are growing up so fast, and I realize how much I've missed. I feel a responsibility to them to show them that you can leave situations, you can speak your truth, and you can still find your way back on your own terms. I want to be the sister I needed when I was their age. My relationship with my mom is delicate. For a long time, situations, I felt like she didn't protect me the way a mother should. But as I've raised my own boys, I've started to see the impossible position she was in. Situations, I don't excuse the choices she made, but I've stopped carrying the anger. Situations, seeing her with Archie Gerald made me realize that she is a woman who loves her grandchildren deeply. We're taking it one day at a time. Situations, there are no deep confessions yet, just small moments of connection over a cup of tea. And for now, situations, that has to be enough. Derick has been my rock through all of this. He's the one who encouraged me to write my story, Situations, and he's the one who supported me when I decided to start visiting the family again. He's much more cautious than I am. He sees the red flags before I do. Situations, but he knows how much I love my siblings. He's willing to stand by the gate while I go inside, making sure I have a safe place to return to. We're a team. Our marriage is the foundation that allows me to face the storms of my past without being swept away. Uh, the baby boom of 2026 is real. Every time I turn around, there's a new cousin for my boys to play with. Seeing Israel, Samuel, and Frederick running around with their cousins in the Arkansas grass, situations, that makes the struggle worth it. I don't want them to inherit my battles. I want them to have a family that is whole, even if it's imperfect. Situations, I want them to know their grandparents, but I want them to know them in a world where truth is more important than image. Sometimes situations, being back in the big house feels like walking through a museum of my own childhood. I look at the long dining table and I don't just see a piece of furniture. Situations, I see the ghosts of 100 meals where we had to be perfect. There's a pain in missing what I call the golden years, that time before the scandals, before the lawsuits, when we actually believed the world we lived in was the only one that mattered. Coming back now in 2026, situations, I realize I can't ever have that innocence back. I see my younger sisters laughing, and a part of me wants to warn them. Situations, while another part just wants to let them stay young for as long as possible. Rebuilding means accepting that the golden years were a beautiful dream, but that the reality I have now, even with all its scars, is much more valuable. Oh, one of the hardest parts of this year was watching Jessa go through her health crisis. Situations, when the news broke about her carnivore diet failing and her physical collapse, my heart just broke for her. Situations, I know that pressure she feels, the need to look like you have it all together while your world is falling apart. I reached out to her immediately. Situations, we didn't talk about the cameras or the fans. We talked about the exhaustion of motherhood. I told her that it's okay to be weak and it's okay to ask for help. Seeing her choose to stay silent on social media to focus on her recovery was a huge step. It reminded me that we are all just trying to survive the expectations that were placed on us since we were toddlers. I'm not blind to the criticism. Situations, I see the comments calling me a sellout for stepping back onto my father's porch after everything I wrote in my book. People think that because I forgave situations, I must have forgotten. But forgiveness isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that I'm no longer letting the past control my future. Situations, I didn't sell out my truth. I still stand by every word I've said and every boundary I've set. Similar situations. But I've also learned that holding on to a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'm back for the people, not the institution. Situations. If people want to judge me for trying to have a relationship with my mother and sisters, that's a weight they have to carry. It's not me. A Jinger and I talk often about what it's like to live outside the fold. She's in LA, I'm in a different part of the world. Situations, and we're both navigating faith on our own terms. Situations, we laughed about her slacker comment because we both know how much work it takes to actually live a normal life after how we were raised. Situations, Jinger has found a way to be soft and happy, and seeing her success gives me the courage to keep building my own path. Situations, we compare notes on parenting, how to give our kids the freedom we didn't have. Situations, she's one of the few people who truly understands the cost of the life we left behind, and her support is a bridge that keeps me from feeling isolated. Being the family whistleblower is a lonely title to hold. For a long time, situations, I felt like I was the only one pointing out the cracks in the foundation. Situations, it's a heavy weight to carry when you feel like your honesty is the reason for the family's tension. But in 2026, Situations, I'm starting to see that my speaking up actually opened a door for others. It made it okay for Jessa to admit she was struggling. It made it okay for Jana to wait for her own terms. My truth didn't destroy the family, it just destroyed the mask the family was wearing. Now that the mask is gone, situations, we can finally start to see each other for who we really are, flaws, struggles, and all. A big part of my rebuilding phase has been spiritual. Shins, I had to deconstruct the legalistic teachings of the IBLP that I grew up with. For years, God felt like a judge waiting for me to fail a rule. But now, situations, I'm finding a God who is much bigger than a dress code or a checklist. Situations, rebuilding my relationship with my parents is harder because our versions of faith are so different now. Situations, I've had to learn to be okay with them not understanding my journey. My faith is no longer about a system, it's about a relationship. Situations, I can walk into the big house now without feeling the weight of their judgment. Situations, because I know that my standing with God isn't based on my father's approval. This year has brought its fair share of new scandals and headlines, from health scares to controversial diet failures. In the past, these things would have torn us apart or forced us into a defensive shell. But this time, situations, there's a sense of unity growing that isn't forced by a TV contract. When Jessa was sick, we all circled around her. When Jaina welcomed Archie, situations, we all celebrated. We are learning that we can be a family without being a brand. The scandals used to be the end of the world. Now, situations, they're just hurdles we jump over together. Situations, we're finally learning to prioritize the person over the publicity. One of the main reasons I keep coming back to the compound is for my younger sisters. Situations, they are growing up in a world that is so much noisier than the one I knew. I want to be a living example for them that you can be independent and still be loved. Situations. I want them to know that if they ever feel like they're drowning, they have a sister who will reach out and pull them to safety. I see so much potential in them. Situations, and I want to make sure they have the tools to build their own lives, whether that's inside the family home or miles away, like Jaina. Situations, I'm not to corrupt them, I'm there to empower them to find their own truth. What does rebuilding actually look like? Situations, it's not always big emotional breakthroughs. Sometimes it's just a Tuesday afternoon in the kitchen. Situations, it's helping my mom with a load of laundry or watching my boys play tag with their cousins in the yard. It's the small situations, Monday moments where we aren't talking about the past at all. Situations, it's learning to sit in the silence without feeling like I have to fill it with an apology or a defense. Situations, these are the moments that build the foundation for a new future. It's slow and it's quiet, but it's real. And for someone who grew up in front of a camera, real is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. As I look at Derick and our boys, I realize that the Dillard legacy is one of resilience. Situations, we fought for our family, we fought for our truth, and we fought for our peace. I don't know what the future holds for the Duggars. Situations, but I know that I am no longer afraid of the gate. I can walk through it and I can walk back out. I am Jill Dillard, a daughter, a sister, a whistleblower. Situations, and a mother. I have counted the cost and I've decided that love is always worth the price. We are rebuilding brick by brick. Situations, and while the house might than it did before, the foundation is finally made of something that can actually last. Thank you for listening to my journey. The gate is open, and for the first time, I'm finally home.